Hello and welcome to this lesson on music theory and piano. We're going to look at the basics of music, starting with the elements of pitch. Now when we say pitch has to do with how high or how low a musical sound is. So we have high musical sounds and low musical sounds. So the position of the note on the staff determines the pitch. So high pitch notes appear at the upper part of the staff and low pitch notes appear at the lower part of the staff. So we're going to talk about pitch, and then we also look at the staff and then the notes that are placed on the staff to give us the pitch. Then we'll look at the treble clef and the treble staff. So the staff comes in different types. For now, we're going to look at the treble clef and the treble staff, and then the bass clef and the bass staff. Then we will also look at the grand staff. The grand staff is a combination of the treble staff and the bass staff. Then we'll also take a look at different types of piano. We have the acoustic piano, we have the digital piano, and then we have the electronic keyboard. Then we'll also look at how to sit at the piano. So staff, notes, and pitches. We are looking at the staff, the notes, and the pitches. Music is written on a staff. So the staff consists of 5 lines. As you can see, we have 5 lines. And then in between the lines are 4 spaces. So we have 5 lines and 4 spaces. And the music notes are written on either a line or a space. So each note can go on a line or a space. And the line or space on which the note is placed defines or determines the pitch of the sound. The lines are numbered 1 to 5 from the bottom. So this is first line, this is the second line, third line, fourth and fifth line. So these notes are placed on first line, second line, third line, fourth and fifth line respectively. And the spaces are also numbered 1, 2, 3 and 4 from the bottom. So these notes are placed on first space, second space, third space and fourth space respectively. Now, as I said earlier on, the placement of the note on the staff determines the pitch. So this note here has a pitch, but not as high as this. So this has a higher pitch than this. And this note has a lower pitch than this. And then another lower pitch note also comes in. Then we move to a higher pitch note, then down to a lower pitch, and then down to another lower pitch. So in relative terms, this note here is lower than this, means we are moving from a lower note to a higher note, and then we come to a lower note, then to another lower note, then a higher note, then a lower note, then another lower note. Next, we're going to look at the treble clef and the staff. So the treble clef has this symbol. This symbol you see here is what we call the treble clef. Okay. As time goes on, we will learn how to draw this. So let's just analyze the treble clef. I realize that we have 5 lines. Now the treble clef most often starts somewhere around the G line or the second line, let me put it that way, around the second line. And then goes in the form of a coil, then goes up to the 5th line and then comes down to the bottom of the staff. Okay, so a clef helps us to organize the staff notes so that we can easily interpret the notes, or we can easily understand the notes. Okay, so this treble clef is used for notes which are higher in pitch. Okay, or let's say the higher notes are placed on the treble staff and the lower notes will be on the bass staff, but for now we're looking at the treble staff. So another name for the treble clef is called the G clef, because it circles around the G, or the second line. Okay, the second line. Now, putting the treble clef on the staff, that is the 5 lines, defines or gives us what we call the treble staff. So anytime you see this in music, it means you are dealing with a treble staff. Okay, so let's look at the names of the lines on the treble staff. Now each of the elements on the treble staff, so each of the lines has a name. The first line is the Yi line. The second line is G. The third is B. The fourth is D. And the fifth is F. So in the treble staff, these are the names we are going to use: E, G, B, D, F for the lines. So we can say every good boy does fine, just to help us remember the names. Every good boy does fine. Then in the treble staff, once again, there are 4 spaces. These 4 spaces are given the names, or are given the letters F, A, C, and E. F, A, C, and E. Now one thing to note is that in music we have 7 letters that are used to represent lines and spaces. And these 7 letters are A, B, C, D, E, F, G. Right. So we cannot have H, we cannot have I, and so on as a line or space in music. Okay. So we are using F, A, C, E, which is one of the, which is taken out of the 7 letters. So F is the first space on the treble staff from the bottom. A is the next, C is the next, and E is the last. So this gives us the acronym FACE. FACE. So anytime you want to remember the names of the spaces on the treble staff, just remember there is something called FACE, and then that will help you to remember the names. So if you are to put the treble lines and spaces together, we are going to have Yi. First of all, let's look at the lines. Yi, G, B, D, F, and the spaces are F, A, C, E. Now when you put them together, you get E, F, G, A, B, C, D. So after F, what is the next letter? It means there is another note that can come after this F called G, because we move from F to G. But for now, we are only looking at up to the 5th line. Okay, but if we go above the 5th line, we can have another note, which is G. And we should come below the first line here, we can have another note. And what note comes before E in alphabet? The note before E is D. So we can have D before E. Alright. So this is the treble staff and the names of the notes. That is the lines and spaces in the treble staff. Right, let's take a look at a section of the keyboard. Now, whenever you see your piano keyboard, remember that the piano keyboard helps us, or whenever we are playing the piano, we need to understand the keys on the piano. So just as we have lines and spaces on the treble staff, the piano has keys. So the keys are also named A, B, C, D, E, F, G. These are the 7 letters used to name the piano keys. But then you realize that A, B, C, D, E, F, G will repeat again. So after G, you go to A, then B, then C, then E, F, G, then A again. It repeats until it finishes. Now, how do we identify these notes on the piano keyboard? Look at the piano keyboard carefully. You see that there are black and white notes. Now, the black notes are grouped into 2 and 3. So we have 2 black notes, 3 black notes, 2 black notes, 3 black notes, in that order. So for us to be able to identify the notes on the piano keyboard, we need to use what we call a landmark, or we need to know the location of the notes. So anytime you see 2 black keys like this, immediate left of the 2 black keys is the key C. So this key here is a C. Anytime there are 2 black keys, look at the left of the 2 black keys, you get your C. Look at the right, immediate right of the 2 black keys, you get an E. Okay, so looking at these 2 black keys, we have C and E. Now, there's another pair of 2 black keys here. So the same rule will apply. We have C and E. Okay. Now, in between the C and E, we have D. So that will give us C, D, E. Now the rest we can even just continue counting. So C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on and so forth. Another thing you can also notice is that we have the group of 3 black keys. At the immediate left of the 3 black keys is the key F. And at the immediate right of the 3 black keys is the key B. Okay. So in between the F and the B, we have G, A, and then B. And these are the notes on the piano. We're going to talk about something called the middle C. Usually a piano has a number of keys. Some pianos have 88 keys, some have 76, some have 61, and so on. So there is a middle key for the 88 key piano. The middle C appears somewhere in the middle of the piano. But in some cases, because we don't have all the 88 keys and we have maybe 61 keys, the middle C will shift a bit towards the left. Okay, so don't worry about that. All we need to know is that we have C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, and so on. Now let's look at the bass. The bass clef has a bass, also has 5 lines and 4 spaces, just like the treble. Okay, well, let me talk about the clef first. The clef is this symbol. This symbol is the bass clef. So if you look at this symbol, it looks like the letter F. And incidentally, this symbol also starts on the line F. So another name for the bass clef is called the F clef. Okay. There are always 2 dots after the clef. And these 2 dots surround the F line. These 2 dots surround the F line. So the clef starts on the F line and the dots also surround the F line. Okay. So the lines and spaces on the bass staff. Now the bass staff is made up of the bass clef and then the 5 lines. Okay. So in the bass staff we have G for the first line, B for the second, D for the third, F for the fourth, and A for the fifth. That is G, B, D, F, A. So the acronym Good Boy Deserves Favor. or let's say the phrase "good boy deserves favor" can be used to remember the notes. Good boy deserves, good boy does, or good boys. In fact, there are several versions. Some people say good boys do fine always. Some also say good boy deserves favor always, or good boy does fine always. So these are ways to remember. Then we have the spaces on the base staff. The first space is A, the second is C, the third is E, and the last is G. So we have A, C, E, G. And here we can use the phrase "all cows eat grass" to remember these names. So when you put all together, the first line is G, the next is a space which is A. So from G you go to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, then A again. So if we are to find the next note above this line, that note will be a B. And we are to find the note below this line, that is below the G, that will be an F. Okay. So if we divide the keyboard into two parts, where we have the middle C, below the middle C, all the notes appear on the bass staff. And then from middle C and above, all the notes appear on the treble staff. Okay, so we can see that when we put something here, this is a G, but which of the G on the keyboard? It should be this G. So we have two G below the middle C. This is the first G below the middle C, and that G is this one. And the next G below the middle C is this one. So that will result in this. If you have a longer keyboard, you can get another G. Okay, there could be a third G which will come below this G. All right. So when you have the treble staff and the bass staff all put in one, that gives us what we call the grand staff. The grand staff. Now the grand staff has the treble staff on top, the bass staff below, then joined by a line, a straight line. So the treble staff and the bass staff are joined by a straight line, and there is also a brace that joins them as one staff. You see, they are two in one. So when we look at the notes that we have learned earlier on, we have E, F, G, A, B, C, D, E, F. Then on the bass we have G, A, B, C, D, G, F, G, A. Now our grand staff has all these notes, plus other ones we can talk about as we move on. Okay. Now the middle of the staff is what we call the where so after A, the space here is a B, but this space we just imagine it, you see. And then below the E is another space which is a D. It's also an imaginary space. Now there is a line after space. We need to have a line. So if you look at the arrangement, space, line, space, line. You can't have line, line without a space in between. Okay, so when there is a line, the next thing should be a space. Then the next thing should be a line. This line here should be a short line. We can't draw a long line because there are only 5 lines for each of the staffs. Both the bass and the treble all have 5 lines. So we can add a 6th line, but we can have a short line to indicate that we can have another line here. That is what we call a leisure line. So leisure lines are short lines like this, which are used to extend the staff. So the bass staff can be extended so that we have another line on top of the A. This line is line A, so we can have another line on top of it. And if we should count from A, you go to B in the space before a C on the line. So this line will be a C. Then we can have another leisure line below the bass, below the bass staff. And this leisure line is from here we have G. So let's look at the first line on the bass, which is G. below the G is a space F, and then this will be a line. So what number or what letter comes before F? That is E. So we have E, F, G, and so on. So that's how leisure lines are used. So we can have leisure lines for both the treble and the bass staff. So from the last note on the bass staff, which is A, that's the last line, we can have a B. Then we introduce a leisure line, which is C. Then we have D. The moment you start adding notes above the staff, if we have the first leisure line C, it means the D also should be on top of the next that leisure line, which is a space. Then we have B, which is below the first leisure line on the treble staff. So the first leisure line on the below the treble staff is called C, and that is the middle C. So this C here can come somewhere in the middle of the staff, or we can just add it to the treble, the upper part of the staff, or we can add it to the bottom part of the staff. So in the next screen, we'll look at all the notes on the keyboard. Now this is about 61 keys. So most of the keyboards we use have this number of keys. Okay. So if you take your keyboard, look at it carefully, look at the arrangement of the black and white keys, where we have 2 black keys, 3 black keys, 2 black keys, 3 black keys, and then at a point in time, now we say that at the left of every 2 black keys is a C. Okay, so we have C here, this is another C, this is another C, this is another C, and so on. And one of them is at the middle part of the staff. Okay. So arranging the notes, you realize that this C here is a leisure line, that's 2 leisure lines below the bass staff. From C we go to a space which is D. From D we go to E, which is also a leisure line below the bass staff. Then we come to F, which is a space below the bass staff. Then G is the first line on the bass staff. A is the first space on the bass staff. Then we move in that order. So from G we go to A, B, C, D, E, F, G, A. Then B is a space above the bass staff. Then if we should move to the first leisure line above the bass, that would be a C. Okay, and then if we should put a note on the first leisure line, that is on top of the first leisure line, not or let's say a note in a space above the first leisure, that would be D. So at a point in time, you see that the bass and the treble notes will come together. Okay, so this note here, B, is the same as this note. So this B can be written here or there. This C, which is the middle C, can be written just below the bass, below the treble staff, or just above the bass staff. So it can be here or there. Then this D can be written just below the bass staff, below the treble staff, or on top of a leisure line, above the leisure line, okay, of the bass, and so on and so forth. Now when you come to the F, which is the last line on the treble staff, we go to G, which is a space above the treble staff. Then the first leisure line on the treble staff is A. Then a space above that line is B. Then the second leisure line on top of the treble staff is C. So this is how you understand the staff, the notes, and the pitches. All right. Now let's talk about the piano. We have the acoustic piano. Usually this piano comes with a number of keys, and then you have the pedals. The pedals are used to control the sound. So we have loud and soft. If you want the piano to play very loud, you have to step on one of the pedals. Okay, and then if it has to play soft, you step on another pedal to control to reduce the sound volume. And then we have one we use for sustain. Okay, so as you move on, you will discover if you have to play any of these acoustic pianos. You see the three pedals are there. You can just test them and use them. Then we also have the digital piano. Digital piano is also a form of piano which uses electrical. It can be connected to electricity, and then you play it in your room. Most of the acoustic pianos normally they don't depend on electricity, so they are created with strings inside the piano connected to the keys. So when you strike a key, it hits the string and makes some sound. But the digital pianos normally are powered with electricity, so but it has the same effect. So if you can play an acoustic piano, there's no difference between that and the digital piano. The digital piano also has three pedals for the loudness, the softness, and sustaining the sound. Then finally, let's look at the electronic keyboards. These are modern keyboards that most of us use. So these electronic keyboards are portable. You can take them anywhere you are going, and also has the same arrangement of keys. So the black keys are in 3 and 2, 2 and 3, 2 and 3, and so on. So even with the electronic keyboard, you can have some with 88 keys, some with 61 keys, and so on. And some also have fewer keys. Okay. So how to sit behind the piano, or how to sit at the piano? Let's look at the posture that you need to use whenever you are playing the piano. Always sit as close as possible to the piano, not too close, not too far away. Your hand should be able to reach the keys. So sit straight, and don't stiffen yourself. Just relax yourself, okay? And then you need to be in the front part of it with your bench, and then you can lean a little forward towards the piano, not too much. Always make sure that you sit in the middle of the piano, or where the middle C is. You should position yourself at the middle C of the keyboard, and let your arms be loose, or your arms should hang loosely from your shoulders. Your hand should not be moving up like this. So when you sit behind the piano, your hand should be almost like 90 degrees. Okay, so if you measure the angle between your arm and the lower arm and the upper arm, where your elbow is, it should form almost like 90 degrees. Okay, so that you will not have to, your hand will not be paining you when you are playing. When you are playing the piano or the keyboard, your hand should not pain you. Okay, you should not feel any pain. Let your arm, we've talked about that. Your elbows should also be slightly higher than the keys. So the elbow portion should be above, a little above the keys. It should not be below, so that you'll be struggling to position your fingers. The bench must face the keyboard squarely. So your bench should be in front of the keyboard, and your knees should also be a little under the keyboard. There should be some space for your knees. So your knees should go a little just under the keyboard, just below the keyboard. That's okay. Alright, this is where we'll end this first lesson. In our next lesson, we will also look at the elements of rhythm. Alright, thank you.